Hi, I'm Patrick Sullivan. This is Recurring Insight, and for this episode, I'm going to be talking about Vindicate. I remember being super excited about Vindicate as a player when it first came out. It was super splashy in a set that had a ton of splashy cards, a lot of competition for that sort of attention. I think that Vindicate is actually a pretty cool piece to have for standard level play, setting aside the fact that it goes after lands, which is really problematic.
I remember my mind being blown when I saw Vindicate for the first time. And bear in mind, this is during Apocalypse, which had just no end of appealing, powerful rares, at least relative to the time. And I remember thinking, how could this possibly be fair? And a lot of the brilliance of Vindicate is not only that it's fair, but it's an actively good thing to prop up to some degree. For starters, it gives an appealing reason to build two-color decks. Now, all gold cards kind of work towards this end in general, but a lot of them can end up being really specific in the deck that they ask you to build. And a card that's just sort of generically appealing on rate, particularly one that makes sense for the color combination, is really important part of the range too, and one that's easy to forget about. So Vindicate does good work in incentivizing people to build multicolor decks in a way that's not overtly prescriptive. Second, it is, in spite of the rate and in spite of how powerful it seems on read, a reasonable thing to have in tier 1 that doesn't invalidate other removal spells. It is 3 mana, it is sorcery speed, it does not exile. That gives a ton of breathing room for other more precise removal spells to have a place in the competitive ecosystem, even though Vindicate sort of looks like a no-brainer for any black-white deck. The problem with Vindicate is the obvious one. It targets lands. And this is sort of before the point where Magic started making disperses and other cards that specifically protected lands. Now, I think there was a thought at the time that, well, how often is this thing really going to target lands? And the reality is, quite frequently, there's a lot of decks with not that many non-land permanents, and there's a ton of spots where it's just powerful to blow up your opponent's lands, especially in a gold format like Invasion. So it came up more than maybe you would anticipate on first blush. But second, why bother preserving that? How often does it have to come up for it to be negative enough that you just call it out and don't make it permissible? I would understand that non-land would ruin some of the read of Vindicate. It makes it a lot less clean. And, at the time, it's not the biggest sin. But it is indicative of this old philosophy surrounding lands that, it is sort of open season on them to some degree. And I think Magic is a much better game, much healthier, with those cards being a lot more expensive, a lot less powerful, or a lot less about blowing up lands in general. That said, Vindicate does a wonderful job of being an attractive, iconic read, a really appealing draw to playing a certain two-color combination in a way that actually could make metagames more diverse over time by giving more breathing space for certain removal spells to have context, and also for allowing certain card types to show up more in Game 1 settings without necessarily having a ruinous effect on the format.
Again, that was Vindicate, and this is Recurring Insight. Make sure that you're subscribed to the Star City Games YouTube page so you can get notified when new videos are uploaded to the page, and throw a comment up there as well. I'm looking for a 3-color card for next week. Not that picky about the details, but 3 colors or more, please.